The auctioneer's hammer slammed down. Sold, to the girl in the back. At just 14 years old, Jasmine Carter had just bought a discarded police dog for $50. But she didn't know she had just uncovered one of the biggest scandals in her town's history. Her new dog, Valor, wasn't just any K9, he had been trained to attack black people. But unlike the other dogs, he refused. That defiance almost got him killed. As Jasmine dug deeper, she discovered a dark secret hidden inside the police force, a corrupt sheriff, illegal training programs, and a system designed to keep black residents in fear. Now, she and her mother are racing against time to expose the truth. But what happens when the people they're fighting are the ones who control the law? Watch until the end to see how this battle for justice unfolds. Subscribe now and leave a comment. Should this sheriff pay for his crimes? Jasmine Carter tightened her grip on the leash, feeling the weight of every stare in the auction barn. She could still hear the murmurs behind her. What's a little black girl doing at a police auction? She just wasted $50 on a broken dog. That mutt ain't worth a dime, wouldn't even bite when he was trained to. She ignored them. Valor stood beside her, thin and trembling, but his amber eyes were sharp. Unlike the other police dogs, who were alert, aggressive, waiting for their next command, he looked tired. Defeated. Rejected. The auctioneer, a burly man in a sheriff's uniform, leaned in. "Listen, sweetheart," he said, voice laced with condescension. "That dog's a failure. Trained with the rest of the K9 unit, but he wouldn't do his job. You'd be better off getting a real pet." Jasmine squared her shoulders. "I'll take him now, please." The man scoffed but handed over the leash. "Your problem now." Jasmine didn't care. She felt something in Valor, a quiet strength, a refusal to follow orders that didn't sit right. She didn't know why yet, but she would. As she led Valor outside, her mother, Angela Carter, was waiting by their old sedan, arms crossed. "Jasmine, I said you could look, not buy." "He needed me, Mom," Jasmine said, voice firm. They were going to get rid of him. Angela sighed, looking at the frail dog. She didn't argue. "Let's get him home." The first red flag appeared the moment they reached their neighborhood, a predominantly black community on the outskirts of town. Jasmine noticed that Valor, who had seemed anxious around the white officers, relaxed here. His tail lifted slightly, his ears perked up. When their neighbor, Mr. Holloway, an elderly black man, approached to say hello, Valor didn't react. No barking. No tension. Just calm. But when a white police officer happened to drive by, Valor stiffened. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Angela noticed it too. "Jasmine," she said cautiously, "why would a police dog, trained for public safety, react like that?" Jasmine frowned. "I don't know. But I'm going to find out." That night, as Valor curled up in the corner of her bedroom, Jasmine did what she did best, research. She searched online for information about police K9 training. K9 units were often used to control protests. There were countless reports of dogs attacking unarmed black individuals. Some police departments had been caught training dogs to profile based on race. Jasmine's stomach turned. Was that why Valor was discarded? Because he refused to attack black people? Her hands shook as she looked at the dog sleeping peacefully beside her. If that was true, then what else were the police hiding? The next morning, Jasmine woke up with a mission. She needed to know why Valor was different, why he had been discarded when the other police dogs were still in service. Her mother, Angela, was already at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone, reading article after article about police brutality and racial profiling. Angela looked up as Jasmine entered. "I stayed up researching last night. You were right to think something's wrong. There have been lawsuits, cases where black men were attacked by police K9s for no reason." She pushed her phone toward Jasmine. Some of these officers, they're from our town. Jasmine's stomach clenched. She recognized some of the names: Sheriff Dale Whitaker, the same man who ran the auction, and Deputy Mark Grady, one of his right-hand men. Angela continued, "There's more. Some of these lawsuits claim that K-9 units were trained to specifically target black people." Jasmine's hands balled into fists. "And Valor wouldn't do it," she murmured. "That's why they threw him away." Angela nodded. "It looks that way." Jasmine felt sick. How many innocent people had been hurt by these dogs? And how many times had the police gotten away with it? Determined to find proof, Jasmine grabbed her bike and a notebook and pedaled toward the outskirts of town, where the old K-9 training facility sat, abandoned. When she arrived, the chain-link fence was partially broken, allowing her to slip inside unnoticed. The place was eerily quiet, a large, empty lot with rundown kennels and a decaying training course. She peeked into the main building, where desks were still covered in dust, old computers sat unplugged, and filing cabinets were left unlocked. Jasmine started rifling through files, her fingers shaking as she scanned document after document. Then, she found it. A folder labeled Special K-9 Training, High-Risk Suspects. Inside were training logs detailing how each police dog was conditioned. Target suspect profile: male, African American, ages 15 to 40. Reinforce response to urban clothing: hoodies, sagging jeans, sneakers. Encourage heightened aggression in low-income neighborhoods. Jasmine's breath hitched. The dogs weren't trained to protect people, they were trained to attack black people. She flipped through the pages and gasped when she saw Valor's name. Dog number 47, failed aggression testing. Non-compliant. Deemed unfit for service. Jasmine clenched her jaw. They got rid of him because he wouldn't play along with their racism. But before she could take more pictures, she heard a truck door slam outside. Panic surged through her. Someone was here. Jasmine stuffed the documents in her backpack and crept toward the back door. Peeking through a crack in the wall, she saw two men in sheriff uniforms stepping out of a patrol truck. Sheriff Whitaker. And Deputy Grady. Jasmine's blood ran cold. She pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering in her chest. Whitaker's voice carried through the air. "You sure no one's been snooping around here?" "I don't know," Grady muttered. "But someone's been moving stuff. We should have burned this place down when we shut it down." Jasmine swallowed hard. If they found her here, they wouldn't just let her walk away. Her hands trembled as she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, quickly snapping pictures of the training logs. Then, she saw her chance. As the officers walked toward the front of the building, she bolted toward the back fence, her breath burning in her lungs. Just as she slipped through the gap, Grady's voice shouted behind her. "Hey! Who's there?" Jasmine didn't look back. She jumped onto her bike and pedaled like hell. As she sped down the dirt road, a truck roared to life behind her, tires spinning. They were coming after her. Jasmine's legs burned as she pedaled as fast as she could, her heart pounding in her chest. Behind her, the sheriff's truck gained speed, kicking up a cloud of dust as it barreled down the road. She could hear Deputy Grady shouting, "Stop, kid. You don't want to make this worse for yourself." Jasmine clenched her jaw. Yeah, right. Like she was about to stop for the same men who had been training dogs to attack people like her. Ahead, the road split. To the left was the main highway, where cars might see her. To the right was the wooded trail leading back toward her neighborhood. She had seconds to decide. She swerved right. The thick trees swallowed her whole, and the roar of the truck faded as the dirt trail became too narrow for them to follow. But she wasn't safe yet. Jumping off her bike, she crouched behind a fallen log, hands trembling as she pulled out her phone. She had proof, photos of the documents detailing how police trained dogs to target black people. She quickly sent them to her mother with a message: "Mom. Call the news. Call everyone." Then, she held her breath, listening. Sheriff Whitaker's voice rang through the trees. "She's in there somewhere. Spread out and find her." Jasmine pressed herself against the ground. If they caught her, she didn't know what they'd do, but she knew she wouldn't get to walk away. Then, suddenly, a bark. Valor. He had followed her all the way from home, and now, he was here, standing between her and the approaching officers. "Go home, boy," Jasmine whispered, but Valor didn't move. He stood his ground, ears back, teeth bared. Whitaker and Grady stepped into the clearing, spotting Jasmine instantly. Whitaker smirked. Well, well. Look what we have here." Jasmine tried to stand her ground, even though her whole body was shaking. "I know what you did," she said, voice firm. "I saw the training records. You trained those dogs to go after black people." Whitaker chuckled. "And who's gonna believe you, little girl?" He took a step closer. "You think anyone's gonna take your word over mine?" Grady snorted. "You broke into police property. You're already in trouble." Jasmine refused to back down. "The whole world is about to see the truth." Whitaker's smile faded. He glanced at Grady, then back at Jasmine. His eyes darkened. "Now that," he said slowly, "is a problem." Jasmine's pulse spiked. Were they about to hurt her? Before she could move, Valor lunged. With a deep, furious snarl, he charged Whitaker, knocking him backward. The sheriff stumbled and fell, his gun clattering to the ground. Grady grabbed for it, but Valor turned on him next, snapping his jaws just inches from the deputy's hand. For the first time, Jasmine saw fear in their faces. These men were used to controlling dogs, but they had never faced one that refused to follow orders. Whitaker scrambled up, cursing. "This ain't over, kid," he spat. "You don't know what you've started." Then, he and Grady turned and ran. Jasmine didn't wait to see where they went. She grabbed Valor's collar and whispered, "Come on, boy. Let's go." Together, they ran. By the time Jasmine made it home, her mother was waiting, her face pale as she held up her phone. "You weren't lying," Angela said, voice shaking. She turned the screen toward Jasmine. The files Jasmine had sent, the proof about the K-9 training program, had already gone viral. Civil rights groups, journalists, even a state senator had retweeted the documents, demanding an investigation. "This is bigger than just us," Angela said. "The whole world is watching now." Jasmine felt a mix of fear and triumph. They had tried to silence her. The news spread like wildfire. By the next morning, major news outlets were running the story. Headlines read, "Sheriff's Department accused of racially targeting black residents with police K-9s, leaked documents reveal disturbing training practices." Journalists flooded the town, demanding answers. Civil rights organizations called for Sheriff Whitaker's resignation, and community leaders organized an emergency town hall meeting. But while the town was waking up to the truth, Jasmine and her mother knew it wasn't over yet. Angela sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. "People are demanding an investigation," she told Jasmine. "But there's a problem." Jasmine frowned. "What?" Angela looked up, her expression grim. "The police aren't investigating themselves." Jasmine's stomach turned. Of course, they weren't. The entire system was built to protect itself. "We need the FBI," Angela said. "We need someone outside this town to look into this." Jasmine nodded. "How do we make that happen?" Angela exhaled. "We keep the pressure on." That night, the community meeting was packed. People filled the church hall, their voices buzzing with anger, fear, and frustration. On one side were black residents who had spent years suffering under this corrupt system. I always knew those dogs weren't just attacking criminals. They were attacking us. My brother got bit last year, and he wasn't even resisting. We need justice for every person this department has targeted. On the other side were white residents who refused to believe the truth. Sheriff Whitaker's been protecting this town for years. This is all lies, just some punk kid trying to stir up trouble. Those dogs wouldn't attack if people weren't doing something wrong. The tension exploded and a white man in a deputy's uniform stood up. "This is a witch hunt," he yelled. "The sheriff has done nothing wrong. And if you people don't like how things are run here, maybe you should leave." The room fell dead silent. Angela stood up, her voice calm but sharp. "We're not going anywhere," she said. "This is our town too. And we're done living in fear." Jasmine's hands curled into fists as she watched the room erupt into chaos. Later that night, Jasmine lay awake, Valor at her feet. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You should have kept your mouth shut." Her chest tightened. Who sent this? Then, a crash. Jasmine bolted upright. Outside, flames lit up the sky. Her stomach dropped. The barn was on fire. Angela's voice rang out from downstairs. "Jasmine, get outside." Jasmine raced out the front door, Valor beside her, barking furiously. Flames devoured the wooden beams, smoke choking the air. The fire department arrived, but it was too late. The barn collapsed in on itself, destroying everything inside. Neighbors gathered, whispering. Everyone knew this wasn't an accident. Jasmine felt rage burn hotter than the fire. They were trying to scare her. Trying to silence her. But they had just made her fight harder. The smell of burned wood and ash still clung to the air the next morning. Jasmine stood in front of the ruins of the barn, her fists clenched. Everything inside, her father's old tools, Valor's training equipment, even the notebooks where she had documented her findings, was gone. Angela placed a steadying hand on Jasmine's shoulder. "We knew they'd try something," she said softly. "But they messed up. They made it obvious." Jasmine exhaled slowly. "Now what?" Angela held up her phone. "I called the FBI. They're coming." Later that afternoon, 2 unmarked black SUVs pulled up in front of their house. FBI Special Agent Robert Hayes, a tall black man in a navy suit, stepped out first. His sharp gaze took in the burned barn before he turned to Angela and Jasmine. "We read the reports, but I need to hear it from you," Agent Hayes said, flipping open a notepad. Jasmine held nothing back. She told him everything: the auction, the training logs, the police chasing her through the woods, the threats, the fire. Angela added the death threats and messages they'd received. Agent Hayes listened carefully, nodding. Then he asked, "Where are the documents now?" Angela handed him a flash drive. "We made backups." He took it and exchanged a glance with his partner, Agent Maria Delgado. "This is enough to open a full-scale investigation." Jasmine's heart leapt. They weren't ignoring her. They believed her. But just as Agent Hayes was about to leave, another car pulled up. Sheriff Whitaker. Whitaker stepped out, all fake smiles and authority. Well. The feds are here." "What a surprise," he said, his voice thick with sarcasm. "Hope you folks aren't wasting taxpayer money on a bunch of lies." Agent Hayes's expression didn't change. "We don't investigate lies, Sheriff. We investigate crimes." Whitaker's jaw tightened. He turned to Jasmine. "You should have stayed quiet, little girl." Angela stepped in front of her daughter. "You threatening my child?" Whitaker chuckled darkly. "Just saying, people who stir up trouble tend to regret it." Agent Hayes stepped forward. "Sheriff Whitaker, I strongly advise you to leave." Whitaker gave him a long, hard look. Then, with a smirk, he tipped his hat and got back into his car. As his taillights disappeared down the road, Agent Hayes sighed. "He's scared," he muttered. "Which means we're getting close." The FBI moved fast. By the next morning, they raided the police department, seizing computers, files, and evidence. They placed Sheriff Whitaker and Deputy Grady under surveillance. News crews covered the growing scandal. But Jasmine knew the fight wasn't over yet. Now, they needed to prove it in court. Jasmine sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone. The entire country was watching. The FBI raid on the sheriff's department had been on the news all day. Reporters stood outside the courthouse, waiting for updates. People were demanding arrests. Some even called for the entire police force to be disbanded. Angela paced the room, arms crossed. They know they're trapped. That's why Whitaker showed up here. He wanted to scare us into backing down. Jasmine kept reading through the news articles. It's not working. People aren't letting this go. Angela sighed and sat down beside her. We need to be careful. When powerful people start to lose control, they get desperate. The doorbell rang. Both of them froze. Angela grabbed her phone and looked through the security camera. It was Agent Hayes. She let him in, and he got straight to the point. We have enough to arrest Sheriff Whitaker. Jasmine felt her heart leap. Angela's shoulders dropped with relief. So it's over. Hayes frowned. Not yet. He's not going quietly. Jasmine clenched her fists. What does that mean? Hayes hesitated before speaking. He's been trying to intimidate witnesses. We believe he has allies still on the force. People who are willing to protect him. Angela shook her head. You mean people willing to cover up his crimes? Jasmine pulled Valor closer. So what happens next? Hayes sighed. We make our move before he can make his. The next morning, the FBI arrived at the sheriff's department with a warrant. They marched inside, past stunned officers, straight to Whitaker's office. He was waiting for them, arms crossed, trying to look in control. This is ridiculous, he said, shaking his head. A damn witch hunt. Hayes stepped forward. Dale Whitaker, you are under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and civil rights violations. Whitaker scoffed. Civil rights violations? He turned to the officers watching the scene. They're saying I'm racist now. I was keeping this town safe. Nobody spoke. Some officers looked down at the floor. Others just stood still. Hayes pulled out the cuffs. Turn around, Sheriff. For the first time, Whitaker's smirk disappeared. His eyes darted around the room, looking for someone to step in. No one did. Slowly, he turned around and let them cuff him. Jasmine and Angela watched it happen on the news. They saw the way reporters pushed microphones toward Whitaker as he was led outside. Do you have anything to say to the people of this town? He looked straight into the cameras and sneered. This town is gonna regret this. Angela exhaled. He's still trying to act like he's in control. Jasmine shook her head. Not anymore. The footage cut to the FBI press conference. Agent Hayes stepped up to the podium. The evidence we have gathered is extensive. This is not just about one sheriff. This is about an entire system of corruption that allowed this to happen. And it's time for accountability. The next few days were a blur of arrests. Deputy Grady was taken into custody next. Then 2 more officers. Each time, Jasmine felt a little more of the fear loosen its grip on her chest. But she also knew this wasn't the end. Whitaker wasn't just some rogue cop. He was part of something bigger. And she had a feeling he wasn't done fighting back. Angela turned off the TV and looked at Jasmine. Are you ready for what comes next? Jasmine nodded. Yeah. I am. The trial began 2 months later, and the entire town was watching. News crews camped outside the courthouse, broadcasting updates by the hour. Civil rights organizations sent legal observers, and activists held signs demanding justice. Inside the courtroom, Sheriff Whitaker sat at the defense table, dressed in a crisp suit, trying to look like a respectable man. But Jasmine saw through it. He wasn't afraid. He still believed he would walk free. Angela squeezed Jasmine's hand as the judge called the court to order. The prosecution wasted no time. They played the training footage, videos pulled from the sheriff's department computers. The jury watched as police trainers ordered K-9s to attack dummies wearing hoodies, reinforcing aggression toward black men. A hushed murmur spread through the courtroom. Next came the testimonies. A black father, his voice shaking, recounted the night an officer set a K-9 on his teenage son for looking suspicious outside a gas station. An elderly woman described how officers laughed as their dog tore through her grandson's jacket, leaving deep scars across his arm. Then it was Jasmine's turn. She walked to the witness stand, her heart pounding. When the prosecutor asked her to explain how she discovered the truth, she told them everything: the auction, the training logs, the chase through the woods, the fire. She looked straight at Whitaker. "They tried to silence me," she said, her voice steady. "But I wasn't the first. They've been silencing black people in this town for years." For the first time, Whitaker looked uncomfortable. His defense team tried to argue that Jasmine broke into police property and that the documents she found were taken out of context. But then, the FBI's forensic analyst took the stand. He confirmed that Jasmine's files matched the official records from the sheriff's department. Nothing was taken out of context. Everything was real. Whitaker's defense crumbled. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. When they returned, the foreman stood up. On the charge of conspiracy to violate civil rights, guilty. On the charge of obstruction of justice, guilty. On the charge of arson, guilty. Whitaker's jaw clenched. He turned to his lawyer, but there was nothing left to say. The judge sentenced him to 25 years in federal prison. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Some people cheered. Others shook their heads in disbelief. But Jasmine just sat still, letting it sink in. It was over. Outside, reporters swarmed around Angela and Jasmine. "How does it feel to take down a corrupt system?" one asked. Angela smiled, pulling Jasmine close. "It wasn't just us. It was everyone who spoke up. We didn't take the system down, we started fixing it." As they walked away, Jasmine felt Valor press against her leg. He had been discarded because he refused to attack innocent people. But in the end, he had helped expose the truth. Justice had been served. But Jasmine knew the fight wasn't over. "I want to keep going," she told Angela. "There's more work to do." Angela nodded. "Then we do it together." Jasmine looked at Valor, then back at the courthouse. This was just the beginning. Jasmine's story is a powerful reminder that change begins with courage, even when the odds seem impossible. She could have stayed silent, but instead, she chose to fight for justice, exposing the truth despite the dangers. Her bravery didn't just change her town, it sparked a movement. In life, we all face moments where speaking up feels risky. Maybe it's confronting injustice at work, standing against discrimination, or defending someone who can't fight for themselves. But as Jasmine showed us, silence allows oppression to thrive, while courage forces the world to listen. So, what will you do when it's your turn to stand up? Will you be the voice that challenges what's wrong? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you believe stories like this matter, like this video and subscribe, because together, we can keep these conversations alive. Your voice matters. Let's use it.